Probably the most impressive about this horse was his intelligence. He was just so smart on a cow. I mean, in the practice pen, you'd see him when he'd hit a stop. If he didn't like the way his feet were, he would adjust his feet so that he could make the next move. And he was smart enough about that cow where he knew which way it was going to go. And he would play with the cow. If he had a really kind of a slow cow and wanted a little more activity out of the horse, he'd let that cow beat him, and then he'd just go gather it up and catch it. And he was just that kind of a horse. And so for me, the most impressive thing about the horse was his intelligence.
Highbrow Cougar is an outstanding son of Highbrow Cat that electrified the crowds at the 2003 NCHA Futurity. His intelligence, cow sense, and athletic ability landed him a third-place finish at the event and was the start of a string of wins that would elevate his earnings to over $156,000. Trained and shown by Tim Denton, Highbrow Cougar started his 4-year-old season by traveling to Del Mar, where he was the Open Derby champion, marking a 2:24. He followed that win by taking the reserve championship at the Suncoast Winter Derby, where his 2:23.5 put him just 1/2 point behind Boone Sand Kitty's winning run. Cougar advanced to the semifinals at the 2004 NCHA Super Stakes and Summer Spectacular, but something seemed off. The horse wasn't himself, and since he had the potential to win every event he entered, this definitely raised a red flag. After extensive testing, extreme tissue damage in his back was discovered, and rather than wait out the 1-year recovery period, the decision was made to end his show career and take him directly to stud. Kathy Dawn, a good friend of Cougar's owners, Bill and Catherine Lacey, remembers him well and what could have happened if it weren't for the injury.
I think he'd have given every horse that year at every show a run for its money. He was always there, you know, and that's, I don't know, it's just like the NFL or the NBA or any sport. I think the biggest problem with him is injuries, and in our sport as well. So, when a horse does what that horse did, stop that hard and turn that horse with that much reckless abandon, that's when injuries happen. So he's that kind of horse, and hopefully he'll produce that same kind of colt.
Highbrow Cougar had more than proven himself in the show pen, and with many people already asking about breeding, the decision to take him directly to stud was a wise one.
He was pretty impressive in the show pen because of his talent and his intelligence, and he got hurt. And we had to make the decision whether we either sold him or kept him or whatever we did with him. And we decided to take him to stud because he was so smart. And if I get anything out of the colts, it's going to be, I hope to get his intelligence, because he's just that smart of a horse. Just a very intelligent animal and smart about a cow and easy to be around, very kind to be around. You go in the stall, and if you don't go pet him, along with the rest of them, he gets upset because he just feels like he needs, he's a smart horse.
There are many sons of the great Highbrow Cat standing at stud today, so the bottom side of the pedigree is more important than ever. Highbrow Cougar's dam is the great Smart Little Lena daughter, Raylena Girl, and remarkably, she was also the dam of the Open Reserve champion at the NCHA Futurity the same year Highbrow Cougar was third, making her the 2003 NCHA Dam of the Year. Cougar's second dam is Jay Moss, the dam of Nurse Ray, whose many money-earning offspring include the great Dual Ray. Combining this outstanding bottom side with Highbrow Cat has proven to be a potent combination, and Highbrow Cougar can continue to pass the blood of champions onto your next foal.
Bill and Catherine Lacey, who own Highbrow Cougar, are very good friends of mine. And they had this horse in training with Tim Denton, and were so proud of him and so happy to be part of this horse and to own him. And I was just so impressed with this horse. He's such a kind horse and a real good-minded horse. he was real easy to train, and Tim Denton, who trained him, just loved him. And the horse showed so consistently, you know, all throughout his career, and his career was pretty short, but he's such a great athlete, and he's such a huge stopper, and he tore some muscles in his back, and he could just never come back quite to that level, so they felt it best to retire him, and they'd had so many people asking about breeding to him, so they just go ahead and let him go retire to stud rather than risk further injury to his back. But when he showed, he was always in the top end, you know, either like at the 33rd, and the next show I think he won the next show, and second reserve champion at the third show. So when he was sound, he was always in contention. Fabulous, fabulous horse. And
Highbrow Cougar's natural athletic ability gave him an advantage in the show pen, but his intelligence and ability to outthink cattle was what really set him apart.
He was the smartest horse I've ever been around, not just in the cutting pen, but you put him in the cutting pen, he knew his job, and he was just always, you know, you could tell when he was playing with that cow too. He'd just sit there and wait, and you know, it's almost like he's not going to come back, and then when he'd come back, he came with so much power and force, and then he'd just gather that cow up and stop, and he'd do the same thing until that cow started trying him. And when that cow got to trying him, and you can even see it in the futurity, that last cow that Tim cuts, that cow starts trying this horse, and he just gets lower and lower, and there's a still picture of him, and that cow that horse is lower than the cow. He's dialed in.
The true test of any stallion lies within his offspring. And with Cougar's first full crops on the ground, the future looks very bright for this up-and-coming sire.
The real exciting thing, I think, for any stud owner is to see the babies. I mean, as individuals, they have to prove themselves, but then it's really all about how they produce. And it looks like he's really going to be a producer. His colts have just hit the ground this year, and really pretty, very good hipped, wide behind, good kind eyes, easy to handle. So it's really exciting.
With earnings in excess of $156,000, incredible intelligence, and a pedigree that's second to none, Highbrow Cougar is one of the industry's top up-and-coming sires. So when it's time to decide on a stallion for your next champion, make your choice a Cougar.